Back. Today we're gonna do something in Blender. It's basically some sort of form finding, or one could also say experimental architecture. Definitely a really great way to get certain forms, certain rather interesting forms rather quickly. It is not flawless, definitely not the case, and could also be very inefficient depending on your machine and what you're working on and whatever. There probably might be certain ways to do that better. I hope that this sound is loud enough. I think it is though. Does this change anything here? Hello? Is this better? No. This does not change anything, does it? Nah. Hello? Or does it? Oh, this should definitely not change anything, but this could change things quite a bit. Hello? Hello? Or not? Well, anyway, should be fine. And I'm also going to show you what I mean. It basically is using, there it is, this is fine, but a little tiny bit too big. It is basically using points and adding instances to the points. I've had a tutorial, or I've made a tutorial, quote unquote tutorial on that before, but I think it is still quite interesting to see the results of what one could get out of that. Really interesting. And I kind of have lost one actually quite important thing there, one quite important note, so to speak, which was this Musgrave texture. What this Musgrave texture is doing there is rather important for, let's say animations and whatever. So when I am changing the width here in the geometry nodes, you can see that it's a bit shitty. It's a bit, nah, it's okay. When I'm changing the width, you can see that it is moving. It's moving rather interestingly. And so when I change the scale, I've had a rather small scale before, and when I go up to, let's say, 2 or something, it's getting increasingly bigger, and the effect that we have had before with this, being there and not being there, also becomes, I could actually do that. That makes sense. It becomes a bit less. So when we're having a 0.1 or 0.01, this effect should, yes, it's quite big there. And as you can see, we're getting interesting forms. I think 0.01 is apparently a bit too less. What I've basically done is having a cube, just a really regular one, as you can see there in the orange one, and using distribute points on faces as a geometry node, and then instance on points. What this does is basically using those points that we have generated, using the distribute points on face, and we're adding this collection using the collection info right there. You cannot see it. There it is. There is the collection. Could actually do it like this. Does this make sense? Somewhat. It's fine. So these are basically the objects that we have added to those points. I think that there is actually a bit of air and a bit of, a bit of possibility to add even more detail, which I would definitely prefer compared to this. I think it's quite nice. It's having something, there is some niceness to it. What I also want to quickly try is using a different set of texture there. Let's maybe use a wave texture, could be interesting, but a magic texture. Let's see if we can even do something there. Nope, that's definitely not what I wanted to do. The scaling. So let's do this again. It's also really interesting, I think. This is definitely also quite interesting. But in terms of, okay, using the depth, this is really cool. This is actually really, really cool. Yeah, I actually really like that. What if we use this? Does this, and how much depth can we add here? And apparently as well, the bigger the scale, the less of a smooth action we're having. So we are gonna choose 0.01 to see what this does. Okay, this doesn't change that much, and 0.1 apparently is sometimes at least a good ratio. Maybe also 8 was too much in terms of depth. Maybe there needs to be less depth. How much can I actually do there? Oops. There we go. Let's add actually, let's do a depth of 4. A scale of 0.1. Yeah, it's also quite interesting what is possible there. Maybe even combining certain textures that I think we could actually do with, is there an add or a math? There is a math. So let's actually do that. We're having this, that, and then we're using the value and putting it into the scale. What I'm a bit of hoping for is that we can therefore use this Musgrave texture to create some sort of rather cool animation there. What I also like to do is using the normal node down there and plugging it into the scale node. We could also try what it does. Okay, yeah, nah, this is definitely not something that I want to have here. Yes, so we're definitely getting this more organic and more smooth animation there that I really enjoy. But I would say that we should add a few more items to the copying part. And I do like this. Yeah, that. And the scale as well a bit less. And the distortion maybe 1. That looks actually really cool. We're having a site that, apparently is quite uninteresting, quote unquote, and one site that is rather interesting. Of course, these are just some simple cubes and whatever. So nothing too big, nothing too interesting, and therefore we are gonna add a bit more to this collection up there that is adding to that. We could also choose this thing and add more to it, or actually do, I don't know if wireframes are always a good idea. I have a feeling that it very often makes things very slow. So we might actually subdivide it once, maybe even twice. And we're gonna select, we're gonna select random, but we're gonna choose the face. We are selecting random faces and we're gonna extrude them along their normals. Maybe we're not gonna extrude them along the normals, but their individual faces. And let's see what is interesting there. Maybe let's have that. Okay, this is already doing something to that thing. It's already having something. Having some niceness. With the very first try, I've had a trees in there as well, but you know, sometimes, or especially with this and you know, this amount of points that you're having, and therefore also those points are this amount of objects that you're having, then you have to be conscious of the fact that it might just be too much for a Blender to handle. So therefore we're gonna select random once again, maybe a bit less. Yes, and we are gonna extrude them in the y-axis just a little tiny bit. It's already doing something there. Maybe we are also going to extrude it in the other one as well, just in case. And I think that this should already add quite a bit to it, and yes, it does. It's already quite interesting to see what is happening there. Of course, I think this one should as well be a bit different. I think when it comes to a box, so the initial geometry was a box, it makes sense to use rather angular shapes. I have had spherical ones or smoother quote-unquote ones as well, but I have a feeling that it most often does not really look as nice as I would have, or as I would like it to look like. We might add a bit of thickness there though. Apply it, and then maybe as well select random, but maybe a bit more, and once again do something like this. Frame selected again, and see what this does. Might be good. Might actually already be quite good what we are having here. I don't know about the form. I mean, as I said before, it is very experimental, or just, you know, maybe for form finding. And of course, if this should be something concrete, something really nice, then you would have to bake this or apply the geometry node and then work on it separately as well. But I think it's actually really not that bad, especially when you're creating an animation out of it afterwards, which is, or could be, should be, can be, whatever, really interesting. What about this thing? I think that we're actually gonna stay with or keep those 3 items there and see what this is gonna lead to. Of course, there is a lot of inspiration, for example, on Pinterest, when you're looking for maybe experimental architecture, maybe also adding rendering. I don't know what I've been searching for. Yeah, I could definitely also show you that. There we go. Where is it? No? Is it this? No. There we go. Especially, so something like this, for example, this is, you know, quite similar. What I'm seeing there clearly is a bit more of distortion. This is definitely made not in Blender, but I think when you're not into Houdini, so this probably is done in Houdini, then still Blender can be a really good option with limited possibilities, at least as far as I have figured things out and as far as I have seen things, to do stuff like that. Yeah, period. It really depends on how you're thinking about things. On one hand, you could say it's rather limited, but on the other hand, this limitation, at least for me and myself and how I've been working with it, enables me to be a bit more precise and a bit more, you know, less random. Because of course I could also create, let's say, such a shape, as we're having here, but the initial shape, so I'm having a box right now, would be this or something similar. And then, you know, one could definitely do that, and maybe we also should be doing that. We could have a look at that later on as well. But I mean, something like this is really interesting. Of course, one would have to play with the materials then as well, and add to all of those objects from the collection, adding some interesting materials there as well, so that in the end we're having a bit more depth and a bit more contrast. In the end, when everything is a pile of gray mesh, not necessarily like this, but you know, some other shit, it is not really that interesting. You know, you're sometimes also not really seeing the depth and the details of the whole model, because everything is just one, and one could indeed really make the model even more interesting by adding materials. Even very simple ones, sometimes it's just indeed about color there. But yeah, I think we have to, or would have to, add another one. Maybe we're indeed gonna try something spherical. Maybe this is what we're gonna do and see what this is gonna lead to. So maybe it's a good idea, maybe not. I'm trying to have the inspiration in the background there. Yeah, maybe I'm gonna do something with this stick there. I think this is gonna be the case. Yeah, we're gonna subdivide it a few times, and we are once again gonna select random, and we're gonna do this. And already in the background you can see like the kind of the shape that this is getting, that I do not really like, just a little tiny bit. I don't want it to be too much, because it should not always be, and I've seen this enough, like just one stick that's a bit different type of thing. I mean, it is already quite interesting, you know, I'm not gonna lie. I'm then, of course, for the rendering gonna add certain materials to that so that it is even better. What are we having here? I think though that one could definitely add certain constraints to all of it. So yeah, I'm gonna save it once. Something that I want to see as well is, what if I add to this collection a meta ball, maybe indeed as a ball. What if I do that? So there should be, does this change anything? No, it kind of does not. What I was hoping for is having some random interactions of those meta balls when they are getting copied, but therefore we probably not gonna do that. Something else that we could be adding, a surface. Yeah, of course we could do that, or some organic-ish mesh. Maybe a ball. Yes, this, I mean, this does something. But I am not really seeing it. I'm not really seeing the ball. What would also be smart is copying this and turning it, and then having it like this, and maybe this one as well. And maybe adding a wireframe to that. unless this is not gonna work that well, but it's quite interesting. So we're gonna keep it at this. Now let's have a look at this thing. This is the original shape. We could definitely also do something to it. Of course, always saving things. To maybe make it more interesting, so I might subdivide it. Don't want to say too many times. Maybe once again. Maybe we are gonna select random here as well. And face extrude individual faces. I don't know if this is gonna break everything, or if this is gonna look rather cool. I don't know. I really don't. Maybe even more. Okay, this is what is happening then to it. I mean, in this way, you can indeed be a bit more precise about, what the model is gonna look like then. Okay, there we're seeing some other stuff here. Okay. I think that I'm gonna keep it somewhat like this, and maybe do something like that so that we're having this view maybe. Yeah, what about that? I don't like this big one. I really don't like this big one there. Let's see. Maybe the scale? No. We could also definitely play with the sort of Musgrave texture that we're having here. Whether it is. This looks actually quite interesting. Multi fractal or not, but I think that I might indeed get rid of those two faces at least. Maybe even this face. Maybe even that one as well. Maybe also this one and that one and a bunch of these faces. As well as these faces maybe. Let's see what this does. Nothing too much indeed. What about this? Yeah, I think for the render, I'm gonna do this by myself instead, or elsewise, it would take quite a long time. But yeah, with that being said, I'm hopefully gonna see you next time.